fight it. Colorado, Arizona, I can't leave it. As you see me so trauma, download in my pocket. It is killing me so, and I don't want to keep bucket. Just the other day, me got to socket. Now we take kill trauma with in my pocket. My brother forget to drugs go shut in your life. Fight it, no they sit down, they do nothing. I cannot open eye, make it drugs to wound me. Even though something must to kill a man. I cannot open eye, make drugs kill me. I go stand up and go look for professional help.
Drugs get young, you say what type you don't know. Send her to ref, not from my dog. Drugs get young, you say what type you don't know. The brother man used to tell a brother, one that hard drugs can kill a brother. Send your soul, the one that malife, cause if you wound you, he got malife. I know that I'm tempted to light it, but I believe I can fight it. The name was Simogaba Rehab. I'm going there not just to please her, but to heal me and to help me. From a coding ref, I believe I can stop it for life. I know go wait until he wants me. I know go wait until he buy me. I cannot put eye make a drop soon to me. Even though something must to kill a man. I cannot put eye, let them kill me. I go stand up, I go look for professional help. Mungu gaga Silifun Onyala.
But then in Europe, America, Asia, Middle East, wherever you are across the globe, we appreciate the fact that you are part of this conversation today. This is NDLA's Open Forum on Airspace, and we're live from the national headquarters of Nigeria's premier anti-narcotics agency, and that is the NDLA in the nation's federal capital territory, Abuja. This is a platform where we share information about drug abuse and its inherent dangers. It's also a channel for us to update our stakeholders and our citizens and everyone across the globe about what we're doing to curb the menace of substance abuse and illicit drug trafficking in our country, as well as getting your feedback so that we continue to serve you better. Like this conversation is recorded, we'd like to tell you that, and is streamed live on our social media handles, especially on our Facebook page at NDLA01 and on our YouTube channel, that's at NDLA_Nigeria. You can always go back and listen to this conversation. You can equally share with others for them to benefit from the knowledge that will be shared here, as well as the information that would be given out. Before I invite our guest today to make his presentation, I'm sure he's already on the space. If not, I'm sure he will be in any moment from now. Before I invite him to make his presentation, let's quickly remind you of some of the activities of the agency this past week, and that comes in our news highlight segment, which will be taken by our regular, that is Blessing Tafa. Blessing, what do you have for us this week? Please go ahead and let's get the updates. We'll be right back. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Good day to everyone, and thank you for joining us on this week's X Space. My name is Blessing Tarfa, and here are the NDLEA news highlights for the week. NDLEA arrests 67-year-old at Abuja Airport for ingesting 100 wraps of cocaine. Nabs Saudi-bound lady with 52 pellets at Kano Airport. Destroys over 11 tons of cannabis in Ogun, Edo forests. Operatives of the National Drug Law Enforcement Agency, NDLEA, have arrested a 67-year-old trafficker, Chukwuemeka Clement, at the Nnamdi Azikiwe International Airport, NAIA, Abuja, for ingesting 100 wraps of cocaine. A criminal enterprise he claimed he ventured into to raise enough money to marry a new wife and start life afresh after wasting 30 years of his life in Brazil, Ethiopia, and Thailand. Chukwuemeka was arrested on Tuesday, 3rd October, during the inward clearance of passengers on Ethiopian Airlines Flight 951 from Addis Ababa, Ethiopia, and taken for body scan, which revealed multiple pellets in his stomach. While under observation, he excreted a total of 100 wraps of cocaine, weighing 2.195 kilograms in 4 excretions. In his statement, he claimed to have spent 30 years in Brazil, Ethiopia, and Thailand, while he was once married, but lost his wife and without a child. He added that was why he decided to go into drug trafficking to raise enough money to marry a new wife and start life afresh. On the same day, Tuesday, 3rd October, NDLEA operatives at the Malam Aminu Kano International Airport, Makia, Kano, intercepted a 45-year-old woman, Bilkisu Mohammed Bello, while preparing to board a Saudi Airlines flight to Saudi Arabia. While being interviewed, she confessed that pellets of cocaine given to her to swallow before her flight were kept in a house in Farawa area of Kano. When she led NDLEA officers to the house, 52 wraps of the illicit substance with a total weight of 767 grams were recovered. Meanwhile, NDLEA operatives supported by officers and men of the Nigerian Army, Civil Defense Corps, and Amotekun personnel on Tuesday, 3rd October, stormed Jamestown in Ugalmakin, Obafemi Owode local government area of Ogun State, where they located and destroyed 10.38 tons of cannabis sativa, covering over 4.152 hectares. While on their way back from the operation, the team also intercepted a truck marked FS548XN carrying a 40-foot container loaded with logs of wood. A search of the container led to the recovery of 2 bags of cannabis sativa weighing 20 kilograms, while 6 suspects, Ahmed Yusuf, Olaniyi Babatunde, Adedeji Babatunde, Richard John, Osholale Olamilekon, and Abdulaziz Said in the truck were arrested. In the same vein, operatives on Sunday, 1st October, raided Obi Camp in Owan West Local Government Area, Edo State, where 30 sacks of skunk weighing 300 kilograms and concealed in charcoal were evacuated from an old dilapidated mud house. Similarly, 2 cannabis farms measuring 1.179065 hectares at Ibanke Forest in Ori 1 Local Government Area of the state were identified and destroyed on Friday, 6th October, while 4 suspects, Terso Zaria, 28, Ifeanyi Osai, 53, Moses David, 19, and Daniel Gabriel, 20, were arrested. In Gombe State, a suspect, Awel Bindo, was arrested on Friday, 6th October along Bauchi-Gombe Road with 50,000 capsules of tramadol. While in Oyo State, NDLEA operatives on patrol along the Lagos-Ibadan Expressway nabbed Anuluapo Blessing Iyanu, 32, with 52 blocks of compressed purple-shaped cannabis sativa weighing 30 kilograms on Wednesday, 4th October. While commending the officers and men of the NAIA, Makia, Ogun, Oyo, Edo, and Gombe commands of the agency for their outstanding feats in the past week, Chairman Chief Executive Officer of NDLEA, Brigadier General Mohammed Buba Marwa, retired, equally applauded their counterparts in all the commands across the country for intensifying their water advocacy lectures, thus creating a fair balance between their drug supply reduction and drug demand reduction activities. That's it on arrest and seizures. Now, here are the water activities across the country for the week. On Wednesday, 4th October 2023, at least 3 NDLEA commands facilitated sensitization lectures in secondary schools across the country. These include State Command at Igbonibi High School, Ila-Orogun, while the Benue State Command delivered the lecture to students and teachers of Royal Ambassador Secondary School, Makurdi, and in Gombe State, over 1,263 students of Government-Day Secondary School, Herwa, Ghana, were lectured on the dangers of drug abuse. The lectures are consistent with the NDLEA mission to raise a generation of youth that make informed decisions about drug use so that drug abuse impact on their future. The Oyo State Command on Thursday, 5th October, held a wider sensitization lecture at Ilora Baptist Grammar School, Ilora, Oyo Town, a Fijio local government area. The agency encouraged students and teachers alike to remain steadfast in their religious beliefs and repress the impulse to experiment with drugs. October, the Anambra State Command delivered a wider sensitization lecture for students of Best Route Onitsha, while the Kano State Command delivered a similar lecture to the students and teachers of Government Girls Secondary School, Dambata. Both students and staff of the school to be dedicated to quality education is an important weapon in the war against drug abuse. Concluding the wider activities for the week was the lecture Special Area Command to Muslim faithful at low-cost mosque, Badagry, Lagos. The agency is unrelenting in ensuring religious bodies are aware of their roles in supporting the NDLEA to curb the drug menace. That's the update for this week. My name is Blessing, and I hand you over to our host, Mr. Femi.
Very well, thank you. Their Blessing. Back from the news highlight segment, now let's about some of the rules guiding process of engagement today, like we used to do when guest presentation. I will start inviting individuals to unmute themselves to ask questions and make contributions in few seconds. We don't encourage unauthorized interruption. We also don't discuss politics here. So let's all remain guided so that we can all enjoy and benefit from this conversation. Thanks for your usual cooperation. We believe very well indeed that we would all be guided by some of these simple rules. Okay, today's program will be as interactive as possible. I'm aware our guest is still struggling with his network, but then would begin with his presentation as soon as he's stable and he's able to come online. But then we shall respond to all your questions and take your contributions on today's subject of discussion. Please let's stay calm and let's enjoy the conversation. Before we get our guests to get on with us, let's quickly remind us about our drug abuse call center, where we provide a lot of psychosocial support services to individuals, friends, and families of those who are struggling with substance abuse. At the center, we indeed have our mental health experts, our professionals, our counselors, our psychologists, our psychotherapists, and all the social welfare support experts who are on duty 24/7. And there we also have a toll-free helpline that individuals who have issues with substance abuse may call. The helpline indeed also it's available for those who may want to give the agency information about things going on in their neighborhood or in their communities, especially those who are dealing or trafficking illicit substances. People or Nigerians are encouraged to give this information anonymously, and we will process this information and get the right thing done. Now, the number to call, the toll-free helpline is 0800 10203040. I come again, the number, the toll-free helpline to call is 0800 10203040. It's indeed a 12-digit helpline, so it's not the 11-digit like our normal GSM number. It's a special number. It's a 12-digit number because we've seen instances where some people talk about the fact that they are not getting through to the number, but then it's because they on their own, they are editing the number, so they are not able to get through because they are dialing the wrong number. Like I said again, the toll-free helpline to call is 0800, that is 0800. That double zero there is not a single zero, as some people will assume. So it's 080010203040. We encourage people to please call these lines and this line, and it's free. You can call from any part of the country, just in the comfort of your home. Please feel free to call this line and seek for help for yourself or your loved ones who may be struggling with substance abuse. And for those who want to give us information, they're also free to call this line. We also like to state that indeed at the call center, our experts can also speak, address some of the issues, or pick your calls, talk with you in the three major languages on specific days of the week. If you cannot talk to them in English or Pidgin, I can assure you they will be able to also pick your call and talk to you in Hausa, Igbo, and Yoruba languages. That's how far we have gone to be able to make this service available to our people. We also like to say that irrespective of your your geolocation, whether you are in the north central, northwest, or northeast, or you are in the south, southeast, and southwest of Nigeria, you can call this number and enjoy the benefits of the service we provide at the call center. That's that. Would like to appreciate again all our people that already on the space. Thank you very much, Toby. Thank you, Perpetua. Thank you, Dr. Abdul from from Ahmadu Bello University, Zaria. Ahmadu Bello University Teaching Hospital, Zaria. Thank you very much for always being Dr. It's also the executive director of Excel Mental Health Foundation. That's his own non-governmental organization through which that's Dr. Abdullahi, through which he helps those in need, and he's actually provided help for some of those on this platform that have come on this platform. Indeed, he has provided help for a number of them. Thank you very much, Dr. Abdullah, for always coming around and for always supporting our people anytime they. Thank you very much again. We have Zinat Abdul Salam. Thank you for being part of this conversation. Bill Kills, thank you very much for being part of the conversation today. We also like to appreciate the National Institute for Security Studies. Thank you for being part of the conversation today. We also like to acknowledge our own commander there, that's the zonal commander in Ondo State, Julius Parabawa. Thank you for being part of the conversation today. We also like to acknowledge First Line News Update. Okay, thank you very much for being part of the conversation today. Again, we would like to thank our own Asma Ahmad. Asma Ahmad, thank you for being part of the conversation today. My comrade officer in Plateau State, Mahmoud, thank you for being part of the conversation today. Thank you, Dimka, for also being part of the conversation today. We have quite, definitely, we may not be able to acknowledge everybody at a go, but we would continue to. Thank you, Ogbeni S, for being part of the conversation today. Thank you, Farida Hassan, for being part of the conversation today. Thank you very much, Roland Azusa, for being part of this conversation today. For those we may not be able to call everybody, for those who may not be able to acknowledge now, we'll definitely be acknowledging you in the course of this conversation. Like we said, we try to. Okay, let me also acknowledge Amino. Amino has been a constant person on this program. Thank you very much. In Healthcare Services Limited, I guess that's also in Jos. I'm trying to follow him on the space to be sure. I'm sure we're in touch with Dr. Audu, and we're aware that he's indeed struggling with his network, where he's trying to join us. I guess that's in Jos. But then before he comes on, as soon as we have Dr. Audu come on the space, we'll definitely get him to immediately make his presentation. But pending when he's able to stabilize with his network, let's once again thank Dr. West. Dr. West, thank you for being part of our conversation today. Thank you very much, Dr. West. Thank you at Grace Alu. Thank you at Grace Alu for being part of our conversation today. Aye Duke, thank you, Aye Duke, for being part of the conversation today. We also like to thank M Sani at Dan Sani 247. Thank you for being part of our conversation today. We'll continue to acknowledge more people as time permits. We appreciate all of you for being part of the conversation today. Like I said, we're hoping to have. We're hoping that Dr. Audu's network will permit him to be part of this conversation again. But before we come back to you on his availability, let's again remind us that the agency has provided one in a lifetime opportunity for those who are struggling with substance abuse, because we have right in our society where we have where a lot of people are scared of stigmatization is also part of the thing we would be glad we'll be able to address today, because of quite a lot of people who indeed are struggling with substance abuse. They really need help, but then they are afraid of stigmatization. They are not able to come out to walking into a treatment center to seek or to get help because of what the people will say about them, because of the kind of side gist or side talk people would make about them, calling them all manner of names. And so quite a lot of people are suffering in silence in their homes, keeping quiet and struggling with the problem rather than actually coming out to seek help. By the grace of God, would be bringing at least two of such persons on the space tomorrow, who those that have actually been able to overcome this challenge, and they are clean today. But then before then, like I said, today we would be talking about drug use disorder and stigmatization role of forensic psychiatrists. And that's the area that Dr. Moses David Audu, really is. That's where he practices. That's his field. And so we would really be glad if his network would allow him to be part of this conversation today. Like I was saying, for those who are really struggling with substance abuse, this is an opportunity that the agency has provided for them and their friends and family members. They need not be worried about being judged or about stigmatization. The agency has made the drug abuse call center available to them with a toll-free helpline that they can call from the comfort of their homes from any part of the country. They would definitely be attended to, if they so wish, anonymously. Actually, our experts, our professionals manning this call center. They don't really have to know your name. All they need is in their engagement with you, they give you a code through which you are identified anytime they call you or anytime you call them. From there, they have your record on their system. They will be able to provide teletherapy. And in a situation where you need to be attended to physically in a treatment facility, they would also guide you to the closest one to you in any part of the country. At the moment, we have, apart from the agency, has some treatment and counseling centers attached to our commands in about 25 state commands, including the Federal Capital Territory in Abuja here. Beyond that, again, we have quite some tertiary institutions where these services are also provided across the states. And at the moment, the agency, it's also bringing on board 3 new model treatment centers where people can also walk into and be attended to. That's all that we've been doing to ensure that those that are struggling with substance abuse indeed get help. How is half hour into the show, and at the moment it's obvious Dr. Moses David Audu is still struggling with his network. I'm not so sure if he would. I'm not so sure how often or how soon he would stabilize. Okay, maybe I'll have to, at this point, I'll have to invite, I don't know if Dr. Abdullahi is, it's is free at the moment. Maybe he may have to step in for Dr. Moses David. Let's have some conversation before Dr. Moses David Audu comes in. If Dr. Abdullah, if you can hear me, can you please come on? Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Abdullah. I can always count on you. I'm sure Dr. Abdullah is familiar with this field, so he will be able to lead our conversation. Pending when Dr. David Audu is able to get his get his network stable, and then he can join the conversation. Dr. Abdullah, thank you very much. Like I said before, Dr. Abdullah is of the Ahmadu Bello University Teaching Hospital Zaria, and he's always been a very strong hand that is also leading a support platform, a Cell Mental Health Foundation. That's his private time. Thank you very much, Dr. Abdullah. Dr. Abdullah will be leading our conversation on this topic pending when Dr. Moses David Audu. Dr. Moses David Audu is a professor of psychiatry, University of Jos, and consultant psychiatrist, Jos University Teaching Hospital, Youth, with addiction and forensic psychiatry as his sub specialty. He's in a place where he's having issues with his network. But fortunately, we have Dr. Abdullah. Dr. Abdullah, please let's start the conversation with you. It's it's a field you are very familiar with because this is what you've been doing either in the hospital or in the university or even your private moments. Please let's have some. Can you share some thoughts with us on this particular topic, Dr. Abdullah? Thank you very much for always being handy.
Yes, Mr. Femi Baba Femi, good evening to you and good evening to all the listeners. Fortunately, Professor Audu is not only my teacher, he happened to be my examiner. I remember when I went for my part 1 at the West African College of Physicians, Professor Audu was one of my examiners. So it's a very huge privilege that I will be stepping in for him while we wait for him to get his connection right. Once again, thank you for having me. Forensic psychiatry is just like an interface between psychiatry and the law. We know that people that are involved in drug use or substance abuse are more likely to fall foul of the law. So usually it's an aspect of psychiatry where we are required to interface between these individuals and the law, especially knowing very well that they are more likely to offend and they are more likely to find themselves on the wrong side of the law, either in the form of supplying or using the substance, or when people use the substance, they are more likely to find it difficult to differentiate what is right and what is wrong, and they are more likely going to offend. So when this does happen and the individual find himself in some kind of problem with the law, we kind of act as an interface, to explain certain things if there is need, if the person is taken to the court of law, if there are legal issues, we are expected to provide certain explanations to certain things that happen. For example, somebody may use substance and there are things we call automatism. Somebody use substance in the layman parlance, let's say loses his mind and involve himself in an act of violence, and that will result to either damage or injuries to people or even death. Okay, and this person is taken into custody, is arraigned before the court, and then the not guilty, on the grounds of insanity or automatisms. A psychiatrist is required to present the facts before the court to tell, so the court can make informed judgment about the individual, whether the person is actually guilty or not, or the kind of sentencing the person should have. So this is just an aspect of this forensic psychiatry. We also know that people that are in prison, the population of people in prison who are using these substances, the percentage, they are much more than those that are out of prison. So usually we are required to provide services to these people, either, the person is using substance, the person is having mental illness or whatever. So these are the areas forensic psychiatrists are usually involved in dealing with problems of drug use problems. So basically, that is that. I don't know the outline Prof wanted to use, but then hopefully I will be able to cover as much areas or as possible. And if we want to make it very interactive, if people have areas of concern that they want to make clear, they want me to make clear, they can post their questions while Mr. Femi read it out so that we can discuss it very extensively. So in a nutshell, that is what we mean by forensic psychiatry. The law and psychiatry, an interface between the law and psychiatry. So in the middle of it, or at the center of it, are the people who are victims of this substance use problems. And more often than not, we have that a lot. We are invited to the court as expert witnesses, to present evidences when these issues do arise. And the cases are on the increase. One thing, if we are not taking anything home, one thing we must take home is the fact that people who use substances are more likely to offend, and the fact that you were under the influence of a substance doesn't mean if you offend, you are not guilty. There are instances where somebody offends under the influence of a substance and the court may find that person not guilty. That is in a situation where this person did not take this substance deliberately. Maybe somebody put it in that person's drink or somebody forced that person to take this substance. Then in that case, the person might not be found guilty of the offense. But if you take the substance deliberately and lose touch with reality and act in a manner that is not sanctioned by the law, then if you are caught and you are that is what we need to know about, in a nutshell, about forensic psychiatry. So I don't know if there are areas.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Dr. Abdullah. There, Dr. Abdullah has been able to provide a lead, but I think I'm a bit comfortable that Dr. Moses David Audu is joining us on another handle. Dr. Audu, I guess you are the one online at the moment.
Yes, I am.
Okay, we're sorry that you have some network challenges there. Like I said before, I already introduced Dr. Moses Audu. He's a professor of psychiatry, University of Jos, and also a consultant psychiatrist, Jos University Teaching Hospital, youth with addiction and forensic psychiatry as his subspecialty. Already, Dr. Abdullah of Ahmadu Bello University Teaching Hospital already gave us an inkling that indeed Professor Audu was his supervisor at one point, at a point in his own medical career. Dr. Audu, you're very much welcome. We said so much about you while you were struggling with your network. But you can now go ahead and let's take your presentation. Thank you very much, Dr. Audu.
Well, thank you very much. My apologies for coming in late. This is because of our network issues here. We've used several networks and several phones and the iPad, and we're just connecting now. I'm sorry. But I think I want to thank Dr. Abdullahi because I think he started well. Uh, well, as he said, I want to build on what he said. Forensic psychiatry is a subspecialty of psychiatry, and which deals with psychiatry and the law. In America, they say call it psychiatry and the law, and it deals with mental health issues that border on the law, and we know that a lot of our patients might have psychiatric problems, and in that state of insanity in court, they might be able to commit some offenses uh, which they might not be aware of. Sometimes they may be able to commit offenses that they are aware of, but because judgment is impaired. And because of this, uh, the law is a bit lenient on some of them, and before their cases could be prosecuted, there's need for forensic report or expert testimony about what has happened, and usually the law wants you to clarify for them whether any offense was committed or not, and if the offense was committed, was it intentional, and if it's intentional, was it look, I'm Dr. Audi's patient. So they called me to go and, bail them out before the cases, maybe filed in court. Or sometimes, if it's a minor offense, they may say, okay, if you agree to go for treatment, then we may not prosecute you further. So these are cases that we see, very often. And it is usually the forensic psychiatrist that goes, to court or goes to the police station, wherever he's called, if it borders on the criminal justice system, to write a report or to give testimony or whatever it is. But we know that patients who abuse substances, who abuse drugs, alcohol, are liable to impairment of judgment. And some of them might be mentally ill, and apart from the effect of the substance, some of them have come down with mental illness, and we talk about dual disorders in such cases. So you are treating somebody who has a substance use disorder and at the same time has developed a mental health problem, maybe severe depression, or has come down with schizophrenia, or is also a patient who lives with bipolar affective disorder. So you have cases like that, and you are treating two major cases, and most of them, because of the poor judgment, impairment in judgment, they can become very irrational and illogical in the way they behave or in the way they act, and they can commit offenses. And sometimes they commit these offenses, and one good thing with them is that if they are mentally ill, most cases, when they commit the offense, they don't deny. I've had cases whereby some committed murder or they committed some very heinous crimes, whatever. And when you ask them, they will tell you why they did it. Particularly those who are mentally ill, they don't do anything to deny. They don't actually defend themselves. They can only tell you why they did it. And I recall in a particular case, somebody who killed his father, who was a chief, and he was being tried. When we interviewed him, he said, even if the father comes back to life, he was prepared to kill him again. So they will likely do anything to actually deny that they committed the act. But those who act under the influence of drugs may not be aware of the they may not be aware that it's because of blackout, and some might be very much intent. They don't know that they committed the offense, so they may try to rationalize what happened, or even fill in the gaps, what we call confabulation, because they have very poor memory of what happened. And when you are telling them, they try to fill in the gaps by fabricating one or two things, which might not be true. And you have cases too of people who might be using drugs and will have come down with things like this, suffer from also seizure disorder or epilepsy, and during automatism they may commit some offenses, but they are never aware. And this problem comes, from time to time, or is episodic, and they are never aware. They may just find themselves with injuries, and then they confront them that, look, this is what you've done this, that, but they are not fully aware of it. So it is up to the forensic psychiatrist to be able to assess, make a diagnosis, and be able to write a report or testify about the patient whenever he is called upon to do that. But some drug users we know have personality disorders, and they use the drugs to facilitate the commission of all kinds of heinous crimes. They may rob, they may kidnap, they may steal, they may do many things. And I know in local studies that were done around, up to about 50% of those who committed criminal acts actually acknowledge that they used substances to facilitate the commission of such crime. They had the intent to commit crime, and then they use the substance to embolden them so that they might, commit such offenses. And you also have cases where some will commit some offenses and they are not mentally ill, but they are on drugs. And when they are apprehended and they are being tried, they want to use, a mental illness, as a plea to say, well, I'm not truly criminally liable because I didn't do it with any intent, or I didn't have knowledge, or my judgment was impaired when I carried out. And you find some will want to try to manipulate the system, coming to seek for forensic psychiatric report or even forensic psychological report, to try to help them in their own defense. And some will actually feign even mental illness when they are not actually mentally ill. So it's up to you to know whether the person is actually mentally ill. You have to determine whether he was actually mentally ill or the person was under the influence of drugs before he committed the offense, or he intentionally used drugs to help him commit the offense. So it's up to you now to be able to make a thorough assessment as a professional and to write the report, as professionally as you can, and to be able to present it in court so that it will help the disposal of such cases in court. But we know that several people who are mentally ill, for instance, people who are depressed, people who have bipolar affective disorders, or people who might even suffer from schizophrenia, might use the drugs or substances as medicine. You can get somebody who is, for instance, mentally ill, suffer from schizophrenia, and then he has these voices tormenting him, running commentary or criticizing the person, and then he smokes weed and uses other things. And when you ask them, said, when I smoke weed or when I take these substances, the symptoms are ameliorated. So it helps me to live, with the voices that are persistent and disturbing me. And so before you know it, they begin to abuse the substances, or they even become dependent on the substances. So you are dealing with two major cases because the person is mentally ill and also, using substances. But for some, it's just pure substance use disorder, no other mental illness. But with time, they can also develop mental illness because substances also can precipitate or they can induce mental illness in individuals that are vulnerable. So what do you do with people like that? You have to deal with the substance, and you also have to deal with the mental illness. And it's not something that's very straightforward. It's usually very complex, and you have to take a thorough history and a thorough assessment and bring your professional skills, to be able to help, the person out. I'll give you an example. I had a patient who is who suffers from bipolar affective disorder, but each time he has an episode, he is extremely very aggressive because he uses alcohol and other things. And when he has an episode, he becomes extremely very destructive, and he smashes windows, smashes doors, he can smash people's cars, and so on and so forth. And in one of those episodes, he was so violent that he went to the major highway in Jos City, and he was just smashing people's cars for no reason. And many people tried to contain him, but they couldn't until the police came. In fact, he had to be shot in the leg, to actually disarm him. So it happens that way. So, and when the case came up for hearing, we said, yes, of course, we've known him to be a patient who lives with bipolar affective disorder for years. And usually the problem becomes worse when he drinks alcohol. And at that moment, he can be extremely, very destructive. So these are the areas, where those of us who practice forensic psychiatry and practice substance use disorders, are called upon, to intervene, either to treat the patient or to intervene whenever they are being prosecuted, to be able to furnish the criminal justice system, with the right information about the patient, so that whatever information we give will actually help in the disposal of such cases. But for some who have been there for long, and maybe they were sentenced to, for instance, life imprisonment. At some time, the government may decide, look, this man has been, or this convict has been in prison for too long, and he's stable. What do we do about it? Can you write a medical report to ascertain that he is stable and he can be released, so that we can grant him, amnesty, particularly when it comes to our Independence Day celebration in this country. So you go and then check them and see those who have been consistent in taking the medication, those of them who have regained insight into their problem, those of them who have been remorseful, and then they have now adhered to the medication and they are willing, to take the medication and live a useful life. So are the ones that usually will write a report about, and you now must have a guarantee that there is a member of the family who will look after the patient and ensure that the patient goes for a checkup, takes his or her medication, so that he can live in society. But at times you even want to write a report that may help to get the patient or the convict released. But family members or the community will say, this convict has committed heinous crime and we don't want him in the community again. If he comes, he will not be safe. So sometimes they may even want to go out, but the community doesn't really want to take them in. So such people cannot live in such community except they go to other community. I know that in other tribes they can change their names and then maybe
The OctaFX trading app combines everything you need for trading stocks and other popular assets. Benefit
so that they can now be integrated into the society. But for us here, when people say we are not willing to take him in, we are still hurting if he comes, or if she comes, we are not going to spare them. So for such people, you don't bother to write any report so that you don't put them in harm's way. And but there are some that can be very difficult to treat. For instance, those who have dissocial personality disorders, and they're also prone to using or abusing drugs. Such people are people that are very exploitative. They are individuals that they have no remorse for anything that they've done. They don't actually learn from their past, and they are prone to recidivism or repeating an offense over and over and over again. So for such people, you don't bother to write anything that will release them. I know of one that we are treating at the maximum security prison here. He was convicted of murder, and he kept harassing me, disturbing me each time I went to see the convicts and to run my forensic psychiatric services. He will ask me to assist him to get his relatives to release him, and I should help him with a favorable forensic report so that he'll be released. But on one of the, but he was really very psychotic, and he would not even want to take medication, and he believed that he didn't commit any offense. But lo and behold, they had an altercation with one, even right there in the prison when the inmate was sleeping. One of the prison staff told me, as much as anything that will endanger somebody else's life. So you leave them there so that they can take their medication. And when you treat them and they will remain in prison, from my own experience, it makes it easier for the prison authorities or the criminal justice system or the correctional center. It makes it easier for them to be able to control and handle them. I worked in one of the African countries, and I tried to set up forensic psychiatric services. And from my experience, there were many, up to 347 cases of patients or inmates who had committed homicide. So they were charged for homicide or murder. And 65% of them actually were abusing substances before they committed murder. And they were extremely difficult, extremely rude, and they made life difficult for the other inmates. So much so that they had to be put on, on shackles, or they had to chain them, and even when they were ill, nobody really wanted to go close to them, and they were not receiving good treatment like the other convicts in the prison or inmates. But when I went, I tried my best, set up services, and I started attending to them. And some of them were calm, and they, for the first time, had insight into what happened to them. Because before then, they never believed that anything was wrong with them. They never believed that they committed any offense. They just felt that they were being persecuted by the government or by the prison authorities. And even the prison, right there, the prison, you see how aggressive they were. But after about 6 months of the services, it was very easy to control the inmates in the prison. Some of them were taking off their shackles or their chains, and they could move freely. And they had insight so much so that they could be arraigned in court, for their cases, for the prosecution process to go on. So that actually helped a lot. But if that were not done, some of them were there for years, more than 5, 10 years, and their cases were not tried. Because there was no way you could take them to court and get anything out of them. They were out of touch with reality and even threatening people right there. So what would you do with cases like that? And in that country, there was no capital punishment. So there are many of them ordered there, and yet nothing was happening. Just feed them and leave them there. And you can imagine the quality of life of people who live there. So, but as a forensic psychiatrist, having instituted psychiatric mental health services there, it really helped. It really helped to make the place a better place, more conducive for the inmates, and we helped the correctional staff to be able to relate well with them, take them to court. Some of them were tried, and some of them who were stayed long were treated and even released. And I recall that because of the cooperation I got from the correctional service, the head of the prison was actually promoted. And then they started bringing other mentally ill patients who were convicts and also abusing drugs. They started bringing them from other regions to that very particular prison so that they could be treated and then have their cases disposed appropriately. So this is what forensic psychiatry is all about. And you know that drugs and crime, in fact, they are almost like twins. They go together. And it's not that people who abuse drugs, always have criminal tendencies. No. It's when they begin to abuse drugs or get addicted to these drugs, they become impoverished because the drugs take over everything. They become a priority to them. So they don't do their work well. They don't attend to their workplace. They don't attend to their families. They don't even attend to their self-care. And when they become impoverished and then they are craving for the drugs, then they begin to act in a very difficult way to get money at all costs. And that's where the criminal behavior begins to develop in some of them who are not even criminally minded. Because of the overwhelming craving, they want to now go and either steal money or they want to even rob and get money. And before you know it, it becomes a lifestyle. Since they are not working and then they have to sustain this behavior. And some of the drugs, for instance, in the project is crack or heroin. They are expensive drugs. So they need the money. And what would they do? How would they get the drugs if they don't have the money and they're already dependent? And the World Health Organization defines addiction as a chronic and relapsing brain disease. So they will find one way or the other of getting money to fund this behavior. So criminal behavior develops, and then the drug use continues, and the criminal act continues. And so some of them who are vulnerable maybe have family history of mental illness, or who have been using the drugs excessively. They may also come down with mental illness. So you have somebody who is a drug user who is charged for criminal offense and who is also mentally ill. So it becomes very complex. And people like that might not be able to live with so-called normal people in the society. So you have to be taken out of circulation to correctional center where they can be attended to and see how you can intervene and get them properly treated before they can be reintegrated into the society. So I think this is what forensic psychiatry is all about, and the role that the forensic psychiatrist also plays in individuals who use drugs. And I want to quickly add again that people who use drugs and also have criminal tendencies are extremely very clever, smarter. In fact, they tend to think ahead of the system. So if you have to deal with people like that, you have to sit up, because they can dribble you and they can get their way and they can implicate you in many things that you don't even know. And they can beat the system anytime. They have the tendency to think ahead of the system because of their own behavior. As opposed to those who are mentally ill. Those who are mentally ill may not have criminal tendencies, except maybe when they become aggressive and just maybe once in a while have an episode where they commit one crime or the other. But to take crime as a lifestyle is not an aspect or the attribute of those who are mentally ill. It's an attribute of those who depend on substances or who abuse substances. These are the ones that take criminality or criminal behavior as a career and continue. So those ones are very, very difficult people that the society has to handle. So I think I will stop here and entertain any questions, or if there are any clarifications. I'm most willing to clear the air on this. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Moses Audu, a professor of psychiatry and consultant psychiatrist with addiction and forensic psychiatry as his sub-specialty. Thank you very much for that presentation. We indeed have benefited. We have quite a number of questions already waiting for your attention in our DM. Let me bring the first one from Inibong. Inibong is asking two related questions. The first one is, thank you very much, Professor Audu, for your presentation. My question is mental health or drug use disorder an effective way to escape the wrath of the law by offenders? That's the first question from Inibong. Again, from Inibong, the second part of his or her question is from Professor Aldo's presentation. Can one then conclude that there is a strong nexus between substance abuse and acts of criminalities in our society? Thank you very much, Inibong there. Okay, Prof, I think those are the two questions from Inibong. After you respond to that, then we'll go, we'll take, we have some three here from Blessing. We'll go to Blessing's questions. You can go ahead and unmute yourself, Prof, and let's hear from you. You are muted, Prof, so you need to unmute yourself so that you can we can hear your response. Prof, if you can hear me, you are muted, so you will need to unmute yourself so that we can hear your response. Prof, can you hear me? You are muted at the moment, so you will need to unmute yourself and then respond to the two questions from Inibong before we go to the question. Please, Banyo, you will need to mute yourself, please, until we ask you to unmute before you can come in. Professor Audu, can you unmute yourself? I guess Prof is finding it difficult to unmute himself there. You will just need to unmute, press where you have the mic button, just press it and you'll be unmuted. Then you can, that way you are able to speak, but at the moment, okay, very good.
Hello?
Go ahead now, Prof, we can hear you now.
Okay, yes, let me answer the first question. Most times, in fact, not most times, sometimes, as I said earlier in my presentation, you'll find that some clever people who have criminal tendencies we want to find or pretend to be mentally ill when they are apprehended, particularly when they are in police custody, so that they can be taken to the forensic psychiatrist to be assessed, and they know that if they find mental illness, the punishment will be mitigated. They may not be criminally liable like those who committed the offense when they are in a state of sound mind. So I've had cases that will come, or the police will come, that we detain so he's an armed robbery suspect, or he was or a kidnap suspect, but we discovered that he's behaving in a funny way, talking to himself, and is aggressive, and maybe defecating on himself, and we think that he's mentally ill. Could you help us assess so that we can write a report and see how we can facilitate the disposal of this case, as quickly as we can. And some of them who are very smart may even go and bribe. They want to assist you, want to pay you, so that you can write a report that they are mentally ill, so that the long arm of the law may not catch up with them as they should. So they use it, and they are very smart. They know this very well. So you have to be very careful before you are robbed in, because when you go to court, of course, the learned gentlemen will not spare you. They will interview you, they will interrogate you, and you have to be able to substantiate and convince them that whatever you've written is actually valid and genuine, and you know what you're doing. So that's what happened. But I know the second part of the question is that, yes, there's a strong nexus between criminal offense and substance use, because when people start using substances, as I said, the substances take over all their life, and they become the number one priority in their life, so that most aspects of their life, either it's family life, work life, or whatever it is, are compromised, and they're not given proper attention, but they pay more attention to the drugs, and because of that, their resources are depleted, and when they cannot get money to fund that lifestyle, they begin to look for ways in which they can get money, to continue to sustain that lifestyle. And since the money is not forthcoming, some of them would have even lost their jobs. They want to steal, they want to rob, they want to kill, they want to kidnap, and do so many things. And this is because the cravings are come. The cravings can be extremely very strong and overwhelming, so much so that they can do anything to get money to go and buy the substance. One of my patients told me that when I have my cravings, I can kill. If anybody stands on my way, I can kill, because it's so bad that I can't do anything. And he gave me an example. Say, I went for a conference, I left from one state to attend a workshop in another state, and then I was withdrawing from my drug, and I didn't get money, and I couldn't find where to get the drug in that capital city. So I had to leave the conference halfway. I went back to my state, and he said, I can assure you that if anybody has stood on my way, I would have killed the person. So the cravings can be so overwhelming, so much so that even those who don't have criminal tendencies are likely to, they start telling lies. They start with petty, stealing of particularly like jewelry in the house, electronics, search a purse, try to look for your password and see if they can withdraw money from your account. And from there, they can go and rob and do anything to fund that behavior. So there's a strong nexus between drug use, particularly those who use hard drugs, and criminal behavior. For those who drink alcohol, those ones, since it's cheap, if they don't have money, their friends are able to buy for them. Some are just dependent on alcohol, and those ones may not have the criminal tendencies like those who use things like cocaine, heroin, and amphetamine, and so on and so forth.
All right, thank you very much there, Prof. Let's take this one question from Blessing. Then we come back to the space where we have Perpetua and some other persons to take contributions and questions from those already on the speaker's corner. Let's quickly take this one from our DM. Prof. Blessing is asking, are there laws and policies are there laws and policies in Nigeria that support the successful reintegration of juvenile offenders into the society? That is, juvenile offenders who have drug-related disorders. Are there laws and policies in Nigeria that support their successful reintegration into the society? That is that from Blessing. Over to you, Prof.
Yeah, there are uh, child laws act now that have been adopted by many states, and then you have even in the states, various states, you have postal homes, you have uh, uh, child correctional centers where they're not supposed to mix them up with the adults, especially for the fact that in law they are considered to be minors. As many states have adopted them, and the only problem is the implementation. You will not go to prison and find somebody who is 16, 17 years, being hoarded up or in with adults who are maybe convicted of armed robbery, kidnapping, murder, whatever. So they don't usually mix them together. They separate them because those ones are considered minor in law as far as they have not attained the age of 18. So you allow them to. There are facilities until in most of the states where they're being attended to. For some of them, they have child psychiatrists, forensic psychiatrists who go there to postal homes to help them out and to treat them. Although when we go there, you find people who are 19, 20, and maybe have smallish stature, and they have committed offense. For instance, some of them may even be caught in robbery, armed robbery, whatever. They will tell you that they are 16 years old, but when you look at them, you know that this one is more than 16 years, and they want to actually see if they can hide under this age thing and say that they are minors in law, so that the law will not come down hard on them. So there are laws actually that take care of such people.
All right, thank you very much, Prof. Let's come now to the space. Let's have we'll give the first opportunity for question and contribution to regular Perpetua Nnamdi Emmanuel. Perpetua, please, let's hear from you. Is Perpetua ready? If Perpetua is not ready, let's come to.
I am, sir. Good evening, sir.
Okay. Good evening. Please go ahead. Thank you.
Sir, I really miss this space. Thank you, Prof, for that excellent presentation. It was an impactful one. Please, I have a question to ask. How do forensic psychiatrists collaborate with other professionals, like such as law enforcement, like NDLA, then addiction specialists and social workers, to develop a comprehensive treatment plan and interventions for individuals with drug disorder, then taking into account both the legal and medical aspects of their condition? Did you get the question, sir?
Yes, I got it.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
All right. Should I go ahead and answer?
Yes, sir, you can.
Please go ahead, Prof. Thank you.
Psychiatry in its nature, or mental health, is a teamwork. It's a teamwork in the sense that you have psychiatrists, you have psychologists, particularly clinical psychologists, you have psychiatric nurses, you have social workers, you have occupational therapists, also counselors and so on and so forth. And we usually work as a team. And for instance, you have a patient or a client who abuses substances and has maybe committed criminal.
I guess Dr. Aldous Network is frozen there.
and
Okay,
and
it's back.
they want to get a report as quickly as possible, and you know that you cannot just see a person. You have to be able to assess the patient, and you also, like, you make the nurses in the ward, you tell them what to observe. They observe when the patient doesn't even know that they are observing him or her, and what they do, because some of them can come and pretend, or they feign, mental illness, while in reality they are not. So they observe over a period and tell you precisely what they have seen, and you tell them what to observe. And then the social workers can also go to the, I look at the social aspect of it, go to the, look at the social background, family background, go to the home or the workplace and find out about the person, and the clinical psychologist will help, to administer all sorts of psychological tests, while you also do your own psychiatric assessment to find whether the person actually at that time is mentally ill. If it's mentally ill, is it at the time of remission when you assess him, or he is still actively, exhibiting symptoms. And you also want to test to see whether you can find any substance of abuse at that time, or substance that they have used at that time, that they committed the offense. You will get from them, they say, yes, I've used substances, when did you use it last? And now that you are testing the person, can you get any substance in their, for instance, in the blood or in the urine? You want to test, and it tests quite a lot of knowledge and skill for you to be able to write a report about a forensic report about any client, and you have to find out the history right from the time that the person was born, the upbringing, school, social life, the family, everything, and the work and marital life. Many things will come into play before you now look at the person at that time, and as you see the person, what do you see? Who is in front of you? Then you can now write your report. So it takes time, and you need all these people, all hands on deck, to be able to furnish you with the information that you need apart from your own assessment, to be able to write a comprehensive report so that you can defend, what you've written. And let me tell you, I had a client who almost strangulated his grandmother, and the grandmother, as old as she was able to wriggle out and escape. Then he was just passing by one of the streets, and so early in the morning, and somebody was, sweeping in the frontage of his house. Then he went and took a big stone, a rock, and went behind the person and smashed the person's head and killed him there and then. And then he started jubilating that he has killed his enemy. So he was about being lynched when the police, intervened, and then they brought him. And the man said that this man has been tormenting him, he's been calling him names, and they has been threatening to kill him. And lo and behold, he never knew the man, but he was actually deluded and was hallucinating, and he actually did not deny that he killed the man. He gave his reason why he killed the man. So we had to go to background to find out what actually happened, and we discovered that he was using substances even at the time that they brought him. In fact, you could see weed, alcohol, yes, weed, and so many other things. And he came from a broken home, and he grew up with his grandmother, and there was so much poverty, and he did not go to school. So all this information you cannot stay and get it from alone. You need to get from the family, and the social worker, the psychologist will go and steal for information and furnish you with the necessary information you need to be able to write this report. And for collaboration with NGLA, for instance, in Jos where I work, I have been partnering with NGLA since 2007. In fact, I've been offering free services when they have problems, difficult clients. I go to see them, and review the cases for them, even pro bono. And now they bring them over like every week or every month to our place, and we review those who we think they are psychotic, but they are very, very aggressive and may not be able to stay in the facility, and they are safer in NDLA, where we treat them and then the NDLA cancel them. So we have been working together, we do workshops together, we do this in awareness, create awareness together, and when they have cases that have broken down, like maybe there are suspects that are withdrawing from substances and they are so aggressive, then people call us in to be able to assess and then to help them out. So you cannot do it alone. It's interdisciplinary, anything to do with substance. In fact, substance use now, the field of substance or addiction It's a multidisciplinary field now where you have all hands on deck to be able to solve the problem. And sometimes the field of addiction alone is seen as a completely different entity. ISOP now, International Society of Substance Use Professionals, is now and seeing addiction as an entity in itself, not. It's not exclusive to psychiatry, it's not exclusive to psychology or nursing or social whatever, but multidisciplinary, and all these hands must come, and even the law enforcement agents, they come together, to be able to tackle this issue of addiction. Because if you look at people who go into drugs and become addicted or abuse substances, you know that there are what we call biopsychosocial factors. There are biological factors, maybe genetic ones, they may have personality problems, psychological ones, and there may be social factors, for instance, poverty, divorce, joblessness, and so on and so forth. So you need all kinds of people to come together to be able, to tackle this problem. So collaboration is very, very keen. And I can say proudly that I've done that since 2007, and I've been working with NGLA till date.
Thank you very much, Professor Audu, there for your intervention. Dr. Audu has been working with the agency since 2007, and no other confirmation that he's still working and supporting the work of the agency that his presence on this platform, speaking and sharing facts and knowledge on this all-important issue with us. We're still on the NDLA's open forum on X Space, discussing drug use disorder and stigmatization role of forensic psychiatrists. Let me quickly acknowledge some of our people on the platform. Again, those that we have not mentioned before, we still have already Perpetua Nnamdi Emmanuel has spoken. We have Ogbeni Ajiferuke Abdul Hamid. I hope I got that name right, correct. We still have also Mohammed Bafo. Mohammed Bafo will be given the platform any moment from now to ask his question. Thank you very much, Dr. Abdullahi of the Ahmadu Bello University Teaching Hospital Zaria. He has always been very supportive right on the platform. Our own John Ogunjimi, I obviously saw you before, but I didn't acknowledge you properly because I think you have changed your display picture. That's why I didn't know it's you, but now I recognize John Ogunjimi is a regular. Thank you, T. Bello. T. Bello is there. And Suleiman, also a very constant face on this platform. Thank you very much, Suleiman. Thank you, Funsho Jimo. Thank you, Dr. West. We also have our own director, the agency's director of prosecution and legal services. She is Josephine Mary. Amazing on this platform. Since that's the name, she's answering on this platform. So I'm acknowledging her as Josephine Mary Amazing. She is the NDLA's director of prosecution and PLS. We have Zinat Abdul Salam. Also on the platform, D-Man, our own zonal commander, Parabawa, is also there. We have Farida Hassan, Junior Banyo, I hope I got that right. We also have another senior officer of the agency, that's Dr. Jonah Kolo. Is actually the head of the newly created Alternative Development Unit of the agency. We also have Namadi Adamu, also Owonu Bigbenga, Al Amin, and quite a number of others. We have just barely 30 minutes left, so let me give the opportunity at this point to. Okay. Bafo, I was just about yielding the mic to Bafo. Okay, Bafo, I think you are back. Bafo, are you ready to ask your question or make your contribution now? Mohammed Bafo?
Yes, I'm here. Good evening, sir. Good evening. Good evening, everyone. Good evening, everyone. The first, I would like to say big thanks to this space, because this space has helped us a lot. But there is a person, before I come to ask questions, this is what I just want to say first. There is my partner that I always listen to this space together. Whenever I'm listening to this space, we come and sit down with me or put it on loudspeaker. So I never knew that this person is so connected to drug abuse. I never knew that he's abusing drug. How did I go to know about this? He had a fight with his friend. So his friend reported him to his parent that, okay, this is what the guy is doing, this is what the guy is doing. So he felt that, okay, what is going on? So he came and met me that, okay, he had a fight with his friend. I should say to them. I came to realize that, okay, the fight they were even having, his friend was saying that he has been abusing drugs. If he bought a matches, this guy is going to use the matches. So that was the reason why he was reported into his parent. So I said, okay, I never knew that you were actually involved in this thing. This is the reason why he has been listening to this space with me. And so he now asked me that he was afraid to meet his parent. He cannot even face them. I have to tell him that, okay, this thing, since you still have that conscious that, okay, your parents, they were not pleased with what you are doing. That fear is in you. You just have to go and meet your parents and beg them that, okay, this thing that you are doing, you are ready to stop it. You are going to stop it. I have to sit him down and begging. With the help of this space that he has been listening to for so long with me, we could come to realize, okay, this space has helped a lot. So when he went back home, the parent talked to him. After I begged him to go home, he went and met his parent. They talked to him. And ever since when he came back, he has changed a lot. Because I could see that he has started reciting. He's a Muslim guy. He has started reciting Quran. He go morning prayer. He's just so involved in everything now. I see that his life has come back normal. And I asked him, okay, how far about what you have been abusing? He told me that that one. He thank God that, okay, this what he has been listening to with me has helped him a lot. And so we should give thanks to Allah. Give thanks to God. So my question now is, I have one friend. We actually were in school together then, but he was not able to finish the school. This my friend, that time when they brought him, his parents entrusted him to me that, okay, I should be watching over him, that this is his character. So he started abusing drugs then. So I have to call his parent. I sit him down, I talk to him that, okay, see, Abdul Malik, this thing that is going on, please, you have to stop this. You have to stop this thing. Focus on school. Let us focus on school so that we can finish all these things. So he was now saying, he's thanking me because I call him like a brother. That is the reason why I called him and advised him stuff like that. So he continued. He started bringing girls and bringing friends. Like for some of them, they will enter a room and be smoking stuff like that. So I have to reach out to his parent that, okay, this is what is going on. The person guy, if people entrusted in me, will see what is going on. So you have to call him and advise him. They reach out to him. The next thing, in the morning, I was still on the bed. He just entered my room. He started, if anything should happen to his mother, he's going to kill me. He entered my room with knife. So I apply what we normally call a common sense, because I realized that he was not in his right senses. For him to enter with knife that wanted to kill me then, I was just quiet. I just leave him, allow him to say whatever he wanted to say. So after he completed what he wanted to say, he left my room. I have to reach out to his parents and see what he was going on. So, but unfortunately, he could not finish school. After we finished 100 level, got into 200 level, he was withdrawn from the school. This same guy, he went to another school. He was not able to finish school. So while I was in Kaduna this year around March, he was brought to Kaduna for rehabilitation. So when I saw this, my friend, honestly, I was stabilized. He's physically looking. He was so drained. So this, my friend, now, last month, he called me. He was asking me that he was repairing system for one woman. The system fell down. So the screen break. He was asking me to assist him, even though I have like 5K, stuff like that. Just the way people was saying it, that they have their own way of getting money to get what they want. So I felt like, okay, maybe what this guy, after they did rehabilitation for him, maybe he has already regained everything. He's not suffering from stuff like that. Because I know that he used to repair these systems, laptop. So I sent him 3,000. When I said to that 3,000, just like few minutes, the money just rebounds back. So he started calling me again. He was disturbing me for 1 week. I have to tell him that I've used that money for another purpose. Yesterday, one of our friends called me that, okay, he used the same similar stuff. Ask her again that you should give him money. So, Prof, you can see the way this thing is going. I think he has not been convicted for any offense. So, but the way I'm seeing this thing is going like this, I don't know what we are doing to him again. Because since if he's using this way of begging money, I think the next step, if you see that this one is not working, the next step he's going to take, we don't know. Maybe he must start like forcing people to give him money. So, Prof, I don't know the advice you are going to give us on behalf of this, my friend, how we can assist him. Thank you. That's my question.
Thank you very much there, Mohammed Bafo. Prof, you are muted, so you will need to unmute yourself like you did before to be able to respond to Bafo's question. But Prof, just go to where you have the mic, then press it, you'll be unmuted. Okay, you can go ahead now, Prof.
Yes, he needs to be actually treated. It's likely that he has relapsed, and for him to go into your room, accost you with a knife and threaten you, it's likely that he's losing touch with reality and is becoming very paranoid or deluded towards you. That's why he did that, and the drugs have started affecting him mentally. And if he has started telling lies to get money, as he said, and rightly so, the next thing he will do is that he will start stealing. He will take anything from wherever he can find and start selling them. Whatever he lays his hand on that can sell very fast. Usually, as I said, it's jewelry. Then they go for electronics and things like wristwatches, whatever, that can sell very fast. If they don't get that, and if they can lay their hands on your password, maybe use your phone, steal your phone, and maybe withdraw money from your account. After that, of course, they know that when you kidnap and you demand for ransom, you get so much money. It may take to that, or even robbery, or whatever it is. That is usually the trend. They start gradually and then they move on. So he needs to be treated. You need to take him back where he'll be reassessed. If he has had if the drugs have actually induced mental illness, in him, then he needs to be treated for the mental illness and also needs to be treated for the substance use. If he has not become dependent yet, it will be easier to treat him and for both the mental illness and then the substance use disorder, so that and then long-term rehabilitation. But people go for treatment, they don't stay a long time. They don't stay long enough for the brain to get to heal and then to acquire all the skills that they need. Within 1 month, they say, oh, they are okay. 2 weeks, they are okay. And then they go back and relapse again. And most times, when they feel they are okay, this is the craving that makes them to continue to pester everyone, handling them that they are okay, they want to go back to work, whatever. But it's the craving that is driving them to do so. That's why, particularly the first 1 and 2 months, you get too many complaints from them. But you know that they are craving. So after that, then they are calmer, they are stable. And then when the inside begins to build, and then the craving diminishes, because if you look at the neural pathway in the brain, it's still very active. So and it takes about 3 months for it, to begin to wane. So people like that need to be treated for both substance disorders and mental illness, and they need to stay long enough to be taught the skills that they need, so that they can abstain, from the substance use and then lead a more useful life. And if they can't keep any job, you may have to retrain them in a vocational job that will help them to earn money and make sure that they are not idle. Because when they are idle, they will certainly go back. Because when they're idle, no money is coming, and then they are craving, and then they need the money, they will do anything. But if they learn some skills where they can earn some money, the skills can occupy them so that they don't have too much time to think about how to get the drugs. So you'll never be tired, and they can have multiple relapses before some of them straighten up. So I don't think he should be tired. He needs to go back to a treatment and rehab center. Otherwise, your life may be in danger tomorrow if he's already holding knife at you and threatening. And most people, when they break down, mentally ill people don't know how to joke when they are psychotic or when they have lost of reality. If they threaten that they're going to kill you, they're likely to carry it through. Yes. And that's why you have to be very careful and you treat them. Ordinary people can make fun and joke about it and become so humorous. But the mentally ill, if the mentally ill threatens you and say if you're not careful, it's going to kill you, then you have to take it very seriously. Even if you threaten somebody you have to let the person know that this guy is thinking of terminating your life, so that you can take precautionary steps. So it needs to be treated. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor Moses David Audu. Audu is a professor of psychiatry, University of Jos, and consultant psychiatry, Jos University Teaching Hospital. Thank you very much for your insights, great insights here. We have I have some questions from one of your colleagues here, but then before then, let me further acknowledge again some of those on the platform. We have Ade West Uyi. Thank you, Ade West Uyi. We have Jogun Ola Kazim Olalekan. Thank you, Jogun Ola. We have Nonso Oyejemesi. Nonso Oyejemesi. Please pardon me if I didn't get the second name well, but I'm sure I got Nonso very well. Thank you, Dan Fulani. God, I beg. Thank you. Tunde Ednot, that's a parody account, and also a senior member of the platform, is a late comer today. Dr. Keminu Lawyer, thank you for being part of the conversation today. Quickly, Dr. Audu, we have a question from one of your colleagues, Dr. Allen. Allen is asking, how do you delineate patient confidentiality in manslaughter cases when your client is guilty? And the second question is, what roles do doctors play in cases where psychotropic prescription drugs may have led to manslaughter in unstable patients? Let me repeat the two questions again, Dr. Audu. The first question is, how do you delineate patient confidentiality in manslaughter cases where your client is guilty? The second one is, what roles do doctors play in cases where psychotropic prescription drugs may have led to manslaughter in unstable patients? I guess you get the two. If you need me to clear any, please let me know. Thank you, Doc. Please go ahead.
Okay. Well, the first question, if we talk about confidentiality in cases of manslaughter, honestly, the law takes precedence over everything. The judge can request even for your notes, for the case file, and usually it's a property of the state. You cannot say you put confidentiality first in a case where the victim lost his or her life. So your own is just to assess and to be able to tell the court whether the person actually committed the offense, which they call reus actus, and whether he actually had intention to commit the act, mens rea, as they call it. And you also need to clarify whether the patient the patient committed that offense under the influence of mental illness, when he was mentally ill, when he had lost touch with reality. And as I said, for the mentally ill, usually they don't go about arguing and try to defend themselves, articulate their thoughts, to argue and say, I didn't do whatever. They will always tell you, look, he did this, he did that, and that's why I killed him. And they will tell you, if he comes back against one of them, I'm going to kill him again, because they feel their life is threatened by their delusions or hallucinations. So you are only just to clarify, you are not a judge, and the issue of confidentiality, is secondary in this case, so that it will give the judge a clear picture, because somebody else is already gone, and then you are trying to see how you can mitigate this sentence. So the confidentiality here doesn't really matter. As I said, the judge can say, I want the case notes, and if he orders for it, you cannot hide it, you must produce it. So in such cases, it's a different thing. When it comes to counseling and other things, yes, confidentiality will come to play. And there may be certain things that may be confidential that you are not supposed to release, or they are not necessary for the prosecution of the case. Then those ones, you keep them to yourself. But anything that is necessary that will help, in the prosecution of this case and the disposal of the case, your confidentiality is secondary. And as I said, the law takes precedence. You can't do anything about it. In cases where psychotropic drugs have led maybe to manslaughter or any criminal offense, well, first of all, you have to truly establish that the psychotropic drugs are actually contributed to the offense. You have to be able to establish that fact clearly. If it's a prescription drug, well, you will know whether it's a prescription drug. But if the person got the drug, procured the drug, by himself, and then it led to a criminal offense, then at that moment, from your history and all assessments, including the time which the person took the drug last, want to know the half-life of that drug. You want to know how long the drug stays in the system, and what happened at the time of the offense, and whether it's a drug associated with whether there was intoxication or black or whatever, and whether the patient or the accused is aware or not aware. Such things you get them and write it very clearly, and you state very clearly, yes, this man took the yes, is under the influence of drugs. He uses drugs or suffers from drug use disorder. He's also mentally ill. As at the time of the offense, he had taken these drugs, and this was the behavior, and he committed the offense. So you'll be able to put it very clearly at that time. But if the patient had committed the offense when the drug had worn out of the system, only when he had withdrawn from the system, he said, well, perhaps the use of the drugs had made the accused to have maybe poor judgment or error of judgment, but certainly did not commit the offense at that time. At the time that the offense was committed, he wasn't under the influence of drug, but there was a secondary effect. He had developed maybe mental illness. He was depressed at that time, or was even psychotic. But at the time he used the drug, did not influence him. It wasn't truly the influence of the drug at that time. So you have to clarify things, and it's left to the judge entirely to decide which way the case, is disposed. So, but if it's a prescription drug that maybe you prescribe, and then the person actually took the drug, and then under the influence of that drug, he committed offense, then it must be stated clearly, which may not be, it's just maybe an accidental thing, or inadvertently, you wanted to treat a person who was mentally ill, but inadvertently the drug wasn't his own condition, and then he committed the offense. You have to tell very clearly, then they just will know what to do. It's up to them, because we are not lawyers, we are not judges. So you have to stick to your professional listening. And usually, even if, for instance, there may be an accused, the prosecution and the defense, if, for instance, two of you as psychiatrists, one for the defense, one for the prosecution, your own is to speak for your patient and to stand by him and assist or defend him when necessary. You can even compare notes, because you're not there to crucify your patient or your client. You are only there to help and see how he can be treated, since he's mentally ill or he had used drugs, whatever. You can compare notes and and see how you can best present yourself professionally and without meddling unnecessarily into the case, and allow the the law to take its course.
Thank you very much, there, Professor Moses David Audu. I guess we'll have just two more questions or contributions. The first will come from Dr. Kemi Lawyer, and the second one will come from Habib Mohammed Maidugu. Okay, let's have Dr. Kemi Lawyer.
Good afternoon, everybody. Mr. Babafemi, how are you? I'm just stopping by. I used to be a very big member of this group, but I just want to say thank you to everybody that joined, and keep up the good work. Drug abuse is taking a different turn, and I want to make this quick announcement because it just came out. Mr. Babafemi, please give me the honor to say this on the space. United States Citizen and Immigration Services just released the list of diseases that are non-admissible to the U.S. now. In other words, if you want to jackpot to America on a green card, it has to be permanent resident. If you want a green card in America now, you have to have a health test, and everybody knows that. They've removed hepatitis B, they've removed HIV, but they have added drug abuse. Any drug abuse or any mental condition involving drug abuse, you're non-admissible. Everybody's talking about that. It's shocking, but it's just another lesson for us to leave drugs alone. Please, if you know anyone that's applying for permanent residence in America, now America is not letting quote unquote drug users, drug addicts, anything that's going to change their society. And they'll say, oh, that man shot 15 people at the mall today. He had psychiatric problems, he was using drugs. No drug addiction and no mental disorders relating to drug addiction admissible. That is all I want to say. There is no ambassador. There is no spokesman. Everybody must be an ambassador to the NDLEA. We are all spokesmen against drug abuse. That's all I have to say, Mr. Babafemi. So I stopped by to say hello.
Thank you very much, Dr. Kemi. Awesome. That's a huge one coming from more or less the number one nation. Yeah, the number one nation in the world. So that's a huge lesson for especially our young people who still think there is something in this illicit drug thing. Absolutely, you have a huge obstacle mounted on your way to Japa or the greener pasture that
we fought, Mr. Babafemi. We really fought the HIV part because I'm an HIV expert as well as a pharmacist. Because we feel that if you have HIV and you're coming from another country to join your relatives in America, we can still treat you and all. But drug abuse, they don't want any drug users or any mental. The second one was mental health problems that stemming from drugs, because people are going out there with guns and they're shooting, they're doing all this stuff, and then we'll go later and say, oh, they have psychiatric problem, they were using ice, they were using something, and they came from another country. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much once again, Dr. Kemi Olunloyo. Okay, let's take the last contribution from Habib Mohammed Maidugu before Professor Aldu makes his response to the one from Dr. Kemi, and also the question hopefully coming from Habib Maidugu. Habib Maidugu, are you ready?
Yes, Mr. Femi Baba Femi. Well, thank you for giving me the opportunity for me to speak on this platform, and I'm really glad. And I have listened to a lot of eloquent speakers and who have already spoken on this platform, and I think what they speak is very much admirable. But what I want to say is this: we are only one local NGO in Borno before I left, and that local NGO is called Drug Free Ambassadors, and we have been like conniving with we have been like engaging partnership with NDLA and some other stakeholders, and then doing campaign to the secondary school, primary school, and also tertiary institutions around the state and some other part of the state. Like we have been like advocating for them to do so. But really, like what our people are facing is that most of our people, our volunteer staff that are facing is that there have been that kind of a harassment from those people who are using drugs in the society. So sometimes when they give us a tip of this is a drug dealer, or this person is doing the drugs, or this one is selling drugs, this and that. So before we really get the culture of a person, and if our CI has exposed, so there are too many numbers of cases like this happens in terms of they put their life into danger. So I was hoping had it been the national NDLA will be used for some a safety or self harm for those people who let me say whistleblowers of so-called drug abusers, drug dealers of drugs and this and that, for them to get some kind of a protections, or for them to get some other thing for them to be encouraged and then to do more in the society and some other part of it. I think the role of the people in the society will have a long way to in terms of dealing with the anti-drug abuses by God grace. And thank you. That's my solution.
All right, thank you very much, dear Habib Mohammed Maidugu, for your contribution. Before I invite Professor Aldo to respond to these two questions, not questions per se, maybe interventions, let me give the opportunity to Dr. Abdullahi, who has been a constant feature of this program, and who earlier in this conversation also stood in for Dr. Audu to please let's take his final shot. I'm sure he's not likely to ask a question, but let's have his intervention perhaps before we invite our guest speaker today to close with his remarks. Thank you, Dr. Abdullah. We can always rely on you as a dependable partner. Thank you. Please go ahead.
Thank you very much once again, Mr. Femi, and to all the listeners. Thank you very much, Prof. Prof has been a wonderful teacher, like I said. And fortunately for me, Prof was my examiner, like I said earlier, during my part one at the West African College of Physicians. Prof was the chief examiner. I mean, the person that examined me. He has been a very wonderful resource person to me all through my career. So I really thank him a lot, and he has provided a shoulder for we the younger ones to stand and reach for our goals. So thank you very much, and I thank everybody for making time to be part of this space. We hope to see more people joining, and we hope to see people taking this message to their various communities. Like I said the other time, most of the people that need to make use of this information, unfortunately, they are not on this space. So it is the onus on us for us to take it to our various locations, our streets, our places of worship, and the rest. So I hope we really make good use of the information we are getting. Thank you once again.
Thank you very much there, Dr. Abdullah. Dr. Abdullah is of the Ahmadu Bello University Teaching Hospital, Zaria. Okay, now, Prof, can you unmute yourself again, like you, the way you used to do it, and let's have your response to the contributions from Dr. Kemi Ululoyo and Habib Maijugu, and then your final take, and then before we close the show. Thank you very much. Please go ahead, Prof.
Thank you very much, Dr. Oluloyo, for enlightening us about the steps that the U.S. government has taken. And the other guy, what's the name now? Thank you too for the work you're doing at the NGO. And I want to thank the NGO for the good job that they're doing. This is really a wonderful thing, in fact, contribution to the society. And I want to appreciate sincerely Dr. Abdullahi for studying for me. In fact, I felt like, allowing him to continue with the discussion because he was on the right track, and I felt there was nothing much for me to add to what he said, maybe except for my experience, but he's a very knowledgeable person in that field. And once again, honestly, my apologies for connecting lately and for the difficulties and keeping people waiting. And I pray that we will focus more on prevention so that we don't have to be treating people who have already come down with drug use disorders. If we are able to prevent people through our social, economic, social, political policies in the country, we'll be able to take a greater chunk of people away or sway them away from using drugs instead of spending so much time, money, and resources, in treating those who are already hooked on drugs. And we need also to engage more forensic people, psychologists, psychiatrists in this, so that we'll be able to decongest our correctional centers and get people treated so that they can be reintegrated into society instead of holding them in the correctional centers where they are there just consuming resources and not contributing to the society. Thank you very much.
Very well said. Thank you, Dr. Moses David Audu. Dr. Moses David Audu is a professor of psychiatry, University of Jos, and consultant psychiatrist, Jos University Teaching Hospital, Youth, with addiction and forensic psychiatry as his subspecialty. He's also the outgoing director of Quintessential Medical Healthcare Center in Jos. Dr. Audu is equally the managing director of Serenity and Wellbeing Healthcare Services Limited, also in Jos. I'm glad you were able to make it eventually, and thank you for the great interventions, the great knowledge you have shared, the facts. We're really grateful. I would also like to thank everyone that has been part of this space. We spent over 2 hours now discussing drug use disorder and stigmatization, role of forensic psychiatrists. Quite a lot of people have had to understand what forensic psychiatry is all about and how they've been intervening their roles in this whole fight against substance abuse. And like our guest speaker, Professor Aldu, did say prevention. Prevention, that is very key. And just as we're preparing to close, Dr. Kemi Oluloyo came with an information of a development, a major development for that matter, from the US. And we hope that will be a great lesson to our young people, especially those who are still nursing the idea of going into substance abuse or trying to experiment. That is a huge one. Please let's us stay there. Now, I'd like to appreciate some other persons that have spoken or that have been part of this process. We have an endless list, but then let me once again run through some of those I have on my list here. That is Perpetua Namdi Mane, she's a regular. Ogbeni Aji Feruke Abdulhamid, thank you. Mohammed Bafo, thank you for the experience shared. That a great one, which has also provided insight. Like I said before, Dr. Abdullah is of the Ahmadu Bello University Zaria. Thank you, John Ogunjimi. He's more or less a silent member these days. Thank you, John. Thank you, T. Bello Suleiman. Thank you, Funsho Jimo, Dr. West, Josephine, Mary, amazing. That's the agency's Director of Prosecution and Legal Services, and I'm sure she must have benefited from the interventions by Professor Aldu today. Thank you, Zinat Abdusalam, D-Man, Parabawa, Farida Hazan, Junior Banyo, Dr. Jonah Kolon, Namadi Adamu, Owonu Bigbenga, Al Amin, Ade West Uyi, Jogunola, Kazim Olalekan, Noso Oyen Jemezi, Dan Fulani, God Abeg, Tunde Ednot, a parody account there. Dr. Kemi Oluloyo, thank you. Thank you. It's Real Elbash, Sahid Yekin, Habib Mohammed, Madugu. Thank you, everyone. I may not have mentioned your name, but please do know that you are all important to us. Let me also acknowledge my colleagues that have been working behind the scene here. Shidi Musa, Francis Dele, Mahmoud, Val, Phil, Blessing, Vina, Charity, Queen, Kumbi, John, Ima, Ali, and others. Thank you very much, guys, for being part of the process. By the grace of God, we continue the conversation next week with a new set of speakers. Please join us then. And it's a Friday. We do hope that you will go home quietly and enjoy your weekend and abstain from substance abuse. Like you had the prof say, prevention is better than cure. Let's not go into it and we'll start looking for help. It's better we avoid it now so that we won't have to nurse any regret later. That's all from me from this end. I'll hand over to Mahmoud to close the space. Over to you, Mahmoud. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much, sir. This brings us to the end of the program. For more information about NDLEA, our listeners can visit our website www.ndlea.gov.ng and perhaps our social media platforms on Facebook at NDLEA01, on X, Instagram, and YouTube it is at NDLEA_Nigeria. You have a wonderful weekend. Bye-bye.
She don't wanna me say you go beat her, say not the only thing when it make me high. And when it high, even do I'm like it crocodile.